let's say I come back and she hasn't touched her food. And I say, hey, you have some really good food here, looks great, these are your green, try it, you'll love it, I promise. You haven't eaten a thing, come on, have something, and then I leave. Come back and get her tray. Still haven't touched her, right? As soon as I touch her, take her hand and bring it to the food, can I say set up help?
No.
No.
Because set up help means I touched her supplies, but I didn't touch her. And I think what happens a lot is we do a lot of touching that we don't take credit for. And we need to take credit for the touching that we're doing, but we need to remember if we're not touching, it's only set up help. So as soon as I take her hand and say, you have this great peanut butter and jelly sandwich, have some, and put the sandwich in her hand, I've gone beyond setup and supervision. And the next question is, was my palm up or was it down? Well, it was up. I was bringing her hand to her foot, her mouth to her hand. Yes, her hand to her mouth. And feeding her. If I'm feeding her, spoon feeding, total assist, right? She's not participating at all, other than swallowing. So that's total. But if she picks up her cup and takes a drink, she can't be total anymore. She's extensive. Total means total. And the big difference between total and extensive is really rehab potential. Because if I have to help her with everything and she can't help at all, she has less rehab potential than somebody who can help a little. If she can help a little, there's a chance I could get her to help a little bit more, and then eventually she's at her highest level of function, which is where I want her. So looking at if she's not really total, total means every single time, my entire shift. And you guys are here for 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And she might be in bed for breakfast, totally not very awake, participating, but maybe she needs more help. Lunch and dinner, she might be up in the dining room just supervision. I'm gonna code highest level, which means I'm gonna code extensive. If this is my dining room and you guys are all eating lunch right now, I'm not supervising all of you. There's a difference between what they call general oversight and supervision. Supervision is closer watching, cueing, doing that. Just because you're here doesn't mean you're supervision. But if I'm cueing and watching you, then you are supervision. What else? Questions? Anything I said that doesn't make sense yet? So, example, let me give you an example and you tell me how you would code it. You have a resident all day, the entire shift, he toileted himself, and he did a great job. Once, he came out of the bathroom and his zipper was undone. You cued him, but he still didn't get it, so you zipped his pants for him. Now it's time to fill out your flow sheet. What are you going to document for this one patient?
No.
What are you going to document on the flow sheet?
He went all day by himself,
Mm-hmm.
and I done it for one time. Zipped his
What
pants.
did you do that one time?
Zipped his pants. I touched him. His pants.
Were you bearing any weight?
So it's limited.
Yes, he's limited. But even though all day, every day, he might have done more, zipping pants, hooking bras, tying shoes, limited assist. Now if I have to pick your leg up so you can put your shoe on, or I can put your shoe on, now I'm doing weight. So weight bearing, non-weight bearing. Let me give you another example. Yeah, patient has a feeding tube, but they're coming to the dining room and eating at lunchtime because they're only getting that feeding tube when they don't eat very much. And at lunchtime, you're cueing them and supervising them. And at breakfast time, you're cueing them and supervising them. But they need a little bit more help, so you're taking their hand and bringing it to the food. Once they get their food, they can bring it to their mouth.
That's extensive.
Because you're still picking up their hand.
The question is, am I guiding their hand or am I bearing the weight? And that's the answer that you have to ask. And if you're bearing weight, which I'm doing right now, bearing the weight of her hand, it is extensive. So most of the time, yes, you're right, extensive assist. Now I have to hold the glass for her because she's doing this and shaking all over. So I hold the glass and do this.
It's total.
Right, unless she's helping, because she has finger foods that she's eating too. If I'm holding the glass and I'm spoon feeding her, it's total. Any questions? Patients you can think of that you want to ask about? Without telling their name? Let's see. Okay, I want her to stand up. So, oh, don't stand up yet. I reach behind and I pull up on the back of her pants. And then she springs out of the chair. Weight bearing, non-weight bearing.
That's extensive.
Yes, because I was providing weight bearing assist when I did that. You have a patient you're transferring, has the gait belt, your hands on it. They start to fall, they're losing their balance, so you help them lower to the chair.
Extensive.
Weight bearing assist, yes. One thing I say is when you have a patient who falls, the transfer from standing to the ground is almost always independent. They go from a standing position to the ground, that's independent. How they get back up off of the ground is rarely independent. Unless you have one of those patients that falls, they bounce back up and do this, good, nobody saw. Usually it's two staff assist.
We don't have any of those.
See, I have a balance deficit. Oh, good, nobody saw that. But to assist is helping them back up, and a lot of times it's total because we've done the assessment, we don't want to have, so looking at how much help. And if just once today I provided to assist, what am I going to write on the flow sheet?
To assist.
To assist. It doesn't matter that usually they were one. So when I sit down to do my flow sheet in the afternoon, my first question is for each of those activities, remembering I have to separate them. Bed mobility stops.
Inside of the bed.
Transfers begins there. I'm separating the activities. But when I sit down, I'm saying, when this patient did this activity today, did I help him ever at all? And if I say no, I'm going to put a 0. But I have to remember ever at all. The next question is, did he help me ever at all? And if I say no, I'm going to put a T. If I say yes, the next question is, did I touch him? And if I touched him, the next question is, was I bearing any of his weight or not? If I was bearing weight, it's extensive. And you saw that transfer that you thought was limited in the beginning when I just lifted up under her arm and she went. Lifting up under her arm is bearing some of her weight. It's not who did the most work. I did more work than you for that transfer. No, you did more work than me. But it's, did I bear any of her weight ever at all during that transfer? So you're saying, did I bear any weight ever at all during my shift? And if the answer is yes, what are you going to put in the box?
Extensive times 1.
Extensive. The next question, before you put the times 1, is,
How many?
was it always just me, or did somebody ever help me? And if somebody ever once helped me, and it might have been first thing this morning when I had to pull her up in bed for breakfast. If somebody ever once helped me, in the box is going to go a 2. And the information's important because that's how you're communicating to everybody how much help the patient needs for care planning and determining how we're going to get her to the higher level. It's also important because if Medicare or one of our insurance companies wants to look at the chart to see if we got paid the right amount of money, we're going to create this pretty little package with all of the documentation, including those flow sheets, and then we're going to mail it off to that insurance company. See, when I come in and look at your records, I can come out on the floor and ask you, hey, you put a T in that box, was it really a T? What happened with the patient? Hey, it looks like it could have been. But when we put that little pretty bundle in the mail and send it off, that's all they have to look at to support what we said we did and what we got paid. So we want to make sure our documentation is an accurate picture of the patient to help support our goals that we're setting, the fact that we're getting ready to send him home and he's reached his highest level, or maybe he needs more therapy before we can send him home because we're doing things for him that we haven't written down. Questions? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you're ready to go out and tell everybody what you learned, right?
Ready to go give my own in service. Probably have to. Her especially.